Today is going to be a little different. Usually I'm sitting here with a script full of frame rate data, resolution comparisons, and critiques of inventory management systems. We usually talk about whether a game is worth it or if it respects your time. But today we aren't reviewing a game, we're reviewing, well, us. We recently hit 1,000 subscribers, and I know in the grand scheme of YouTube, where people have millions of subs and get plaque deliveries every other week, that number might seem like a drop in the ocean. But to me, that number is massive. That is 1,000 actual human beings who decided to stop scrolling, watch a video, and join the Tea Time crew. That is 1,000 people who said, I want to hear what this guy has to say about cozy gaming, and that blows my mind. So to celebrate, I didn't want to just do a top 10 list and call it a day. I wanted to sit down, pour a fresh cup of tea, and actually talk to you. I asked you for questions about the games, the gear, and the person behind the microphone, and you delivered. We're going to get into it all. We're going to talk about why I started this, the mental health struggles that led to this channel, my obsession with Formula 1, and why my cat Belle is technically the one running this entire business. So grab a brew, take a breath, and let's get into the Q&A. Let's start with the foundation. The question that came up most was what made you want to start doing YouTube and specifically covering cozy games. There are really two answers to this. There is the professional answer and then there's the real answer. Professionally, I looked at the gaming landscape and saw a gap. I saw a lot of massive channels covering AAA releases, the Call of Duties, Elden Rings, and I saw a lot of hype channels that would just scream about every new trailer. But I didn't see enough curators. I wanted to be a guide. I wanted to highlight those hidden gems that weren't getting coverage on the big IGNs or GameSpots of the world. I wanted to create a place where you could find a review that respected your time and wallet, specifically for the cozy genre. But if I'm being completely honest with you, the real reason I started this is because life got pretty dark. A while back, I was going through a really tough time with my mental health. I won't go into every gritty detail, but the world just felt incredibly loud. Everything felt high stakes, my job, the news, social media, and it all felt like this wall of noise that I couldn't turn down. I was anxious, I was stressed, and honestly I felt super isolated. Gaming had always been my hobby, but even that started to feel stressful. Competitive shooters, difficult Souls-likes, and they demanded energy that I just didn't have. And then I retreated into cozy games. I started playing games where the objective wasn't to win or kill, but just to be. Games where I could organise a farm or brew coffee, or just walk through a pixel art forest. And for the first time in months, the noise in my head went super quiet. I realised that these games weren't just time wasters, they were a sanctuary and they were a form of digital self-care. And I thought, if I need this, if I need a place that prioritises creativity over stress, then maybe other people do too. So JaeTeeGames isn't just about games, it's about carving out that safe space, and it's about finding that little corner of the internet where we can all just take a breath. That leads directly into a question about integrity, and someone asked, how do you balance being a fan of cozy games with being a reviewer? And it's tricky, right? Because I am a fan, I love the genre, and I want these developers to succeed. When I see a solo dev pouring their heart into a farming sim, I want to tell everyone to buy it, but also I have a responsibility to you. I view myself as a teacher, I guess, more than a critic, so my job isn't just to sit here and say, this game is cute, 10 out of 10. That doesn't really help anyone, so my job is to explain why it works or why it doesn't. I have to separate that vibe from the loop. A game can have the most beautiful hand-painted art style in the world. It can look absolutely stunning in screenshots, but if the inventory management is clunky, if the controls are unresponsive, or if the game wastes your time with tedious grinding that feels like a chore rather than gameplay, I have to tell you that. I think some people confuse cozy with good. Just because a game is relaxing doesn't mean it's well made. And I respect your time and your money too much to gloss over technical issues just because the characters are wholesome. So the balance is this. I will always approach a game with a spirited heart, looking for the good, looking for the charm, but I'll critique it with a direct mind. I'm the friend on the couch who will tell you, yeah, the art is great, but honestly the fishing minigame is going to drive you insane. Okay, the big meaty question, the question everyone asks, which is, what are my top 5 cozy games of all time? This was impossible to narrow down. I stared at my Steam library for an hour trying to pick these. But if you ask me today, right now, what 5 games define me, here they are. Number 5 is Cozy Caravan. It's a newer one, but it has quickly shot up my list. It's my current obsession for pure vibes, and we're live streaming it a lot at the moment. The premise is so simple. You're a small animal driving a caravan around a beautiful world, setting up a market, trading with locals, no combat, no failing, and it's kind of the definition of why today is a Sunday morning game. The art is vibrant and warm, the music is cheerful, and it makes me smile. So if you need a game that asks nothing of you but joy, then this would be it. Number 4 would be Coral Island. If Stardew Valley is the classic, Coral Island is 100% the modern evolution. I know it had like a rocky launch, but looking at what it is now, it's incredible. It takes everything that we love about the farming sim genre and updates it for 2025. Characters are diverse and interesting, the world is lush, and the environmental message of like cleaning up the ocean, I think adds a layer of purpose that I personally really connect with. It feels relevant and it feels like a game for now rather than maybe a game for 10 years ago. Number 3 for me would be Wonder Stop. This one is super special, from the creator of the Stanley Parable. You play as Alta, a fallen warrior, who's forced to manage a tea shop. The narrative brilliance here is the conflict, right? The mechanics are cozy, but the character hates it. She wants to be fighting, but she has to learn to slow down. I see it as kind of being a deconstruction of the entire cozy genre. It asks kind of, is it possible to force yourself to heal? And that's really relevant for me with everything that I was going through kind of middle to end of last year. The tea making mechanic is super tactile and complex. You have to climb ladders, pull levers, etc. But the story is kind of what kept me super glued to it. Number 2 for me would be Spiritfarer. This game destroyed me in the best way possible. It was been described as a cozy management game about dying. You play as the ferry master for the deceased, building a boat to carry spirits to the afterlife. So you cook for them, hug them, build them rooms, but then eventually obviously you have to say goodbye. And it taught me that cozy doesn't always mean happy, right? Sometimes cozy just means safe. It created a safe space for me to process grief and loss, and I would say it's a masterpiece of art, music, and emotion. And number 1, I think you could probably guess number 1, it's Stardew Valley. I tried to be hipster and pick something else, but I can't. It really is the king of cozy gaming, right? It's a game that proved a farming sim could have deep emotional storytelling, endless replayability, and a combat loop that actually feels somewhat fun. And I've poured hundreds and hundreds of hours into Pelican Town. And it's kind of the game that I compare everything to when I'm reviewing, because truly it is the gold standard of cozy games. Speaking of big games, a lot of you have asked how stoked I am for my time at Evershine. I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at an 11. So I've been following Pathia since Portia, and look, Portia was really good, but it was pretty janky at launch, I would say. Sandrock was a huge improvement, but it still had that kind of like cartoonish bobblehead style, which I know a lot of people don't really enjoy. But Evershine, I think they've completely shifted the art direction and gone for this kind of approachable realism style. So proportionate characters, more high fidelity environments, and lighting, I think, that looks like a high budget RPG. I think it looks gorgeous. And I know there is like a debate in the community. Some people miss the cartoony style, but I think this is kind of the glow up that it needed. It feels more mature. It feels like the developers are kind of saying, we aren't just making a cute indie game anymore. Kind of treating it more like a AAA life sim, I guess. And my only hesitation would be the technical performance. So Sandrock struggled a lot on Switch at launch, and I'm worried that with these new graphics that it probably won't run as well. But if they can nail that polish and nail the Switch port, I think this could be like a genre-defining game. But personally, I'm fully on board the hype train. So this brings us to the hardware question, the battle of the handhelds, Switch versus Steam Deck. What do I consider to be the ultimate cozy machine? Now this was a tough question because I love Nintendo. I grew up with Nintendo, and I think the Switch OLED screen is still, in my opinion, the best screen on the market for vibrancy. Stardew looks incredible on it, the colors really pop. But if I had to choose one device I could bring to a desert island, I would say it's the Steam Deck. And for me, it comes down to two things: performance and access. The original Switch is aging. I think the Switch 2 is out of budget for a lot of people, and we all feel it, right? I think the frame rate drops and loading times can really break the immersion. I mean, look at kind of Hogwarts Legacy on the Switch, it was terrible. But I think the Steam Deck kind of powers through a lot of that. More importantly, the Steam Deck gives me access to my PC ecosystem, right? So as a curator, I'll put it in inverted commas, of cozy games, I need to play things that are in early access. I need to play weird little indie games that haven't been ported to Nintendo yet. And the Steam Deck allows me to play things like Mana Lords or Tiny Glade in bed. Nintendo generally makes you wait years for those sorts of ports. So I think for the casual player, Switch is king, but for the enthusiast, Steam Deck is probably the winner. So let's step away from the screen for a minute. A few of you asked, besides gaming, do I have another favorite hobby? And you might be surprised by this because my channel is so chill and my voice has been described as being super calm, but my real life hobbies are probably, I would consider them high stress. So I'm a massive sports fan, specifically NFL and Formula One. I live in the UK, but I travel to Atlanta a lot for work. So I am a die-hard Atlanta Falcons fan. And if you know anything about the Falcons, you know that being a fan of this team is 100% not cozy. It's stressful. It's painful. So my Sundays are usually spent screaming at the TV, pacing around the living room, and wondering why we blew yet another lead in the fourth quarter. Rise up usually means rise up and turn off the TV before I cry. It's depressing being a Falcons fan. And then Formula One, I'm a huge McLaren fan, Lando Norris all the way. Big ups to him for winning the World Championship this year. I love kind of the technical side of it, the strategy, the speed, and there's absolutely nothing relaxing about watching a 2-second pit stop go wrong and ruin an entire race. It's happened to McLaren far too many times. So I think that's why probably I need cozy games so much. My weekends are filled with like adrenaline and sports stress. So by Sunday night, I need Cozy Caravan just to lower my heart rate back to a safer level, shall we say. I get this question quite a lot in the comments, and it's like, do you have any advice to help me get into pixel art games, because I find them hard to look at? And I totally get it, right? If you grew up with 3D graphics, pixel art probably looks old or messy, but my advice would be don't look at the pixels, look more at kind of the loop of the game, right? So start with a game where the gameplay is so addictive that your brain stops noticing the graphics. Vampire Survivors is a great example. It looks like chaos, but the dopamine hit of the gameplay is so strong that within 10 minutes you kind of don't see the pixels anymore, you just see the game. And I say try treating the pixel art like a book. So when you read a book, the author describes a scene, but then your brain kind of fills in the details. I think pixel art does the same thing, right? A character might just be a few dots, but it kind of allows our imaginations to project emotion onto them. And I think that can be like way more immersive than hyper-realistic 3D games that look kind of uncanny or stiff. If you want like a gateway into pixel games, maybe try like HD 2D games. So Sea of Stars, Octopath Traveler, Square Enix are really good at the HD 2D kind of games that mix that pixel art with modern realistic lighting or water effects. Kind of gives you the best of both worlds, and I would say is a great kind of gateway into pixel art games. So I call this community the Tea Time Crew, but people always ask, what do I actually drink on a daily basis? And this is my official beverage schedule. So mornings, it is coffee, strictly coffee. I do not function as a human being without caffeine in the morning. I'm not cozy in any way, I'm a grump. Don't talk to me until I've had coffee. I usually brew like a Nescafe, like Americano, with sugar and then milk. Jet fuel to get me editing, but do not talk to me and do not look at me until that coffee cup is empty. And then afternoons, I'd say this is where like tea time kicks in. So once work is done and I'm settling in to record or play games, I tend to switch to tea. Yorkshire tea is my favourite. Trying to go down the decaf route right now because I do take in a lot of caffeine during the day. And milk goes in after the water, not before. And then if it's late, I have like a really cool bedtime tea. It's kind of got like nutmeg and vanilla, which meant to help you sleep. I can't say it does, but sometimes maybe it does. So yes, I would say the channel was built on a foundation of bean water and leaf water. So let's talk about the industry a bit. And one question I got was, what is one trend in cozy gaming I want to see die and one that I want to see grow? And I think from some of my previous videos, you can probably tell I have strong feelings about this particular topic. I think one trend that needs to die is 100% what I call the cozy tax. I'm seeing way too many games launch on Steam for like $25, $30 that are barely finished. They slap on an early access tag, and I think it's dangerous. They have a cute art style and everything, but 100% not worth the $25 or $30 for it. Developers kind of know that cozy is this buzzword right now, and they think by slapping a pastel color palette on a half-baked game and charging premium for it is okay. But I think we as gamers need to demand quality. That just because a game is cute doesn't mean it gets a free pass on being like buggy or super short. So that's one thing that needs to be in the bin and back in 2025. The clones as well. We don't need another Stardew Valley clone. I think every game tries to pitch themselves as the next Stardew Valley, but we don't need another clone unless you're doing something like radically different, right? So Grimshire is a really good example of that. Stop giving me a farm and a fishing rod and a mine. Give me something different. Give me a tea shop in space. Give me a cozy horror game. Innovate some more. And then the trend I want to see grow is probably accessibility. I think this is the most important one for me. Cozy gaming is for everyone, and that includes people with disabilities, right? People with motor control issues, people with vision issues. So I'd like to see more cozy games, more indie games with fully remappable controls, text scaling, colorblind modes, and more assistance modes, right, that let you turn off timers or combat things. I am a firm believer that cozy should mean approachable for everyone. And I think it might be hard for an indie or solo developer to do that, but it's something that they definitely need to consider when they're building their games. So a question I guess a lot of people wonder or have asked is what's next for JaeTeeGames? We did a bit of a rebrand at the start of the year, where we moved away from kind of the teal and yellow and the more cartoony look to this charcoal and coral, more professional look. And we've kind of moved into what I call the magazine era of JaeTeeGames, I guess. So when I started, I was just a guy with a webcam. But now I kind of want the channel to feel more high quality, a little bit like an indie gaming magazine, I guess is how I would describe it. So higher production value, more video essays that kind of deep dive into the philosophy of game design and not just reviews. So generally the way I've been planning things right now is you get 2 reviews a week and 1 more kind of deep dive. And also I've changed my editing tools. I'm now kind of moved away from CapCut and I'm using DaVinci, which is a much more professional looking professional editing tool. I have lighting now, so you can see behind me. I have the blue light behind me, and then I've got 2 bright lights up in front. So things hopefully will start to look a little bit more professional. But also I want to double down on community. So I want to do more live streams. We've started doing kind of Tuesday, Tea Time Live on Tuesdays, with the occasional Saturdays thrown in as well. But I also want to do some more like community game nights on the Discord. If you're not a member of the Discord, go and join. I want this to feel less like you're just watching and actually more like a collaboration and a club, right? That's kind of the main aim for me always, was to build a community. I call you guys the Tea Time crew, and I want to make sure that you guys have a seat at the table when it comes to kind of what content I'm producing, and things like that. So definitely expect more polls in the future and more kind of questions to you all about what you want to see on the channel, because for me this channel is as much yours as it is mine. Okay, next question takes us back to the past, and it was, what was the very first game that made you fall in love with gaming? And for me, I remember like the very first console, I guess you could call it, I had was a Game Boy, the big grey one that was like this big. It was really thick and it was black and white. And for me, it was playing Pokemon Red on the Game Boy. I love the physicality of like the plastic cartridge and just everything. That's what I miss, I think, about playing mainly on PC is like physical media. We don't have that physical media anymore. But then also for Pokemon, there was just something about that urge to collect and explore a world that felt safe but adventurous, and I think scratch an itch in my brain that I'm probably still chasing today. I think if you look at some of the cozy games that I play now, so Coral Island, Stardew, they all have that kind of creature collection, museum completion mechanic, and I am like a completionist at heart, right? I want to fill every slot on the inventory, and I think that obsession started with catching a Charmander back in 1998. Someone asked me about music in my videos, which is usually like chill or lo-fi or kind of hip-hop style music, and they asked, what do I listen to when I'm not editing? So most people probably think I listen to like chill music 24/7, but honestly my music taste is a little chaotic. I listen to like a weird mix of, it goes from like musical theatre, so yes, I am a theatre kid at heart. I love a good Hamilton or Les Mis soundtrack. Then it goes to like pop and rock, and yeah, it's a really kind of varied playlist. I went through, I think like every teenager, I went through my serious emo phase. I'm talking like full-on fringe, studded belts, everything. And honestly, it kind of never faded. I guess it was never just a phase. So if you see me looking super intense while I'm like farming parsnips in Stardew or something, there is probably a chance I'm blasting My Chemical Romance or Paramore or something like that in my headphones. But I think the contrast keeps me sane. I go through phases of like, I want to listen to classical music, and I'll listen to like Hans Zimmer or Ludovico Einaudi or something like that, and then I'll go, straight into like My Chemical Romance or Bring Me the Horizon or something like that. So yeah, my music taste is super varied. If I could visit any fictional video game world for a week, where am I going? I have two answers. I might be cheating. But if I wanted social vibes, I'd say Pelican Town. Who doesn't want to go to the Star Drop Saloon and have a drink and attend like the myriad of festivals that are available to you? I think that would be somewhere really cool to visit. And if I want peace, I'm going the Shire. Maybe not the version we're seeing in Tales of the Shire. I was disappointed with that game, but the Shire. Just imagine it, right? Pantry full of cheese, bread, 6 meals a day, no phones, no emails, naps, gardenings, and second breakfast. I think that would be the ultimate cozy destination. I don't think I'd ever come back. I don't really talk about them a lot, but people wanted details on pets. So tell us a funny story about the pets, who runs the house, etc. So I'm a dad to 3 fur babies. I've got Kobe, the Frenchie, who is 7. And then I've got 2 cats, Belle, who is 8, and Simba, who is 7.5. Dynamic in the house is super weird. Kobe and Simba, they're like best friends. They chase each other, they cuddle. Simba will groom Kobe. Chaos, pure chaos. Belle is a bully. She's a tiny, fluffy little tyrant, and I would say that she runs this house. Kobe, who is like, he's quite a solid, muscular dog, right? He's probably 11, 12 kilos. And he is at the bottom of the stairs. Belle is sat at the top of the stairs, just sitting there, just staring, and he wouldn't walk past her. He would whine until I like came and like moved her or picked him up and brought him up the stairs. She is the queen, and everyone else in this house is just her servant. So I want to end on a real note. And the question is, what is the hardest part about being a creator that maybe people don't see? And for the record, I don't consider myself a real like content creator, right? I don't do this full time. I have a real life job that I do. This is my hobby. But kind of what is the hardest part about being a creator, I guess, that you guys don't see in the videos? I think it's really easy to look at YouTube and think it's just playing games and having fun. And yeah, it's fun, right? Don't get me wrong, I get to play some really cool games. I've had some really cool opportunities come from it. But the struggle, I guess, would be internal. And I think it kind of like imposter syndrome. So every time I post a video, even if it does well, even if you guys are leaving amazing comments, there's always like a voice in the back of my head saying, it was a fluke, you got lucky, you can't do it again. When I got my first video over 1,000 views, and I got a video that got like 60k odd views, I never thought, for me, that was like a total fluke. I never actually thought I'd even get to YouTube partner. I didn't think I'd get to 1,000 subs, and I started this back in July. So it is kind of like a constant battle to convince myself that I belong on the platform just as much as a creator who has 500,000 subscribers, right? I think there are a lot of smaller channels now on YouTube that potentially feel the same way. So yeah, that imposter syndrome, it can be quite difficult to deal with, I think. And I think the other part for me is like the always on guilt. I'm like it with my job, my real job, my adult job. But then when your hobby kind of becomes like a second job, right? This is kind of a second job for me. You lose the hobby. So I find it kind of hard sometimes just to sit down and play games for just me, just to relax. When I do, I kind of like 5 minutes in, I feel almost guilty, right? I should be recording footage. I should be taking notes. I should be making a thumbnail. It can be really, really hard to turn that creator brain off and just be kind of a gamer again. Especially when I have YouTube Studio on my phone. I'm usually always on my PC. So if I'm seeing comments come in, I'm like always going and responding to them. And actually, I'm starting now to try and be a bit more like, nope, comments is something you do at the start of the day, once a day, and then the comments will still be there tomorrow. So yeah, switching off can be super difficult too. But then I read the comments on the videos, people commenting on my voice. They want me to do audiobooks. They want me to do podcasts. I see like conversations in the Discord between other members of the Tea Time crew who don't know each other, right? And they're helping each other out, and it's super nice. And it reminds me kind of why I do this as my hobby, and it does quiet down that imposter voice. But yeah, the imposter syndrome is real. I want to end this video by saying thank you. Thank you for 1,000 subscribers. Thank you for nearly 2,000 subscribers now recording this. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for trusting me as kind of your guide to what I call the cozy side of gaming. I really appreciate all the support that all of you have given, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be on Discord, wherever it may be. And I think for the channel, really, it feels like we're just getting started. I think we've finally found our groove. We're building a really, really nice community. And I have a lot of big plans for the next year that I'm really, really excited about. But if you enjoyed this Q&A video, make sure you're subscribed for the next milestone. I'd love to have you as part of the Tea Time crew. And hopefully we'll get to do more of these in the future as well. So grab a brew, take a breath, and I'll see you in the next one.